Hello, LEC community. Thank you so much for joining us for another wonderful Latinx Educator Awards nominee spotlight. I'm so excited because I'm getting to reconnect with someone who I met several years ago. I can't even believe it's been that long. Emily, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Uh,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor. I've been listening to the other nominees' comments and everything they're doing, and it's just so great to be part of this bunch.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Like I said before we hopped on, hearing all the stories and how um just how amazing the many amazing teachers that we have out there impacting kids. It makes me really proud. So let's just jump right in. Emily, tell us about you, your story, and your journey.
All right. But first of all, I just grateful for this opportunity and this nomination. It's just, again, looking and listening at the other nominees. It's just so great to see the amazing things that are happening in the classroom. So, a lot of them are sharing the impact they're doing on students. And that's exactly why I'm in this profession, because I think we hold the opportunity to touch student lives. We have students who come to us with trauma or come with us with so many walks of lives that they're just expecting to have a smiley face and someone who will understand them. So that's me. That was me 15, when I was 15, 30 years ago, sitting in a classroom longing for that adult, that teacher who will give me a smile, make me feel comfortable. And I never had that, unfortunately. And so I strive to have that difference. And so I'm a high school dropout, didn't make it through high school, but I did put myself through school. And as an English language learner, it took me a long time. So I just started teaching about 12 years ago. And I'm in the classroom now doing teaching English as a second language, but at the same time, impacting students in any way I can.
I didn't realize that part of your story that you dropped out of high school. You're my second interview that is the case, and that's why I love doing these interviews, because if there is a student out there, or a 20-year-old or 20 something, whatever age, and they think that, oh well, I can't achieve this now, but hearing your story, hearing the story from yesterday, I'm just like so impressed. I don't know, that's not the right word, but
Thank you. Thank
yeah, of
you.
course, of course.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you feel about being nominated? I know you spoke a little bit about that already, but what are your feelings about it?
Seriously, is an immense amount of gratitude because as a teacher myself, I know how exhausting this job is. Like, I get home and I am so tired. I see my colleagues how hard they're working, and this job is exhausting. We give more than 100% when we're on campus to impact and teach our students. And so, having someone to come and validate the work that we're doing as educators, or having an organization bringing that affirmation as a teacher, feels good. It's a lot of gratitude. And I think there's not enough of that. I mean, we need administrators, we need coaches, we need people to come around and recognize the work that educators are doing. And there's not enough of that. So thank you for, as an organization, to come together and creating this space and this opportunity for educators to be heard and to be seen, because sometimes we feel like, I go home and I'm like, what did I do today? Even though I know I gave it 150%, it's important to know that we're being seen, that we're being heard. And it's not a shout out about ourselves, like who we are. I think it's a shout out about what we are doing. We know what we're doing, and to hear someone nominate you because of the work that you're doing, I think it's just fantastic. It just feels so good.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, like you said, it's not about I mean, it is about who you are, of course, but like hearing people's
So
nominations,
more,
seeing what they're saying
absolutely.
about the impact you're having in the classroom, about how students come to your classroom outside of class hour, things like that, right? Where it's like the student impact is there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what? As I mentioned earlier, I love doing these because people's stories come out, and if there's someone in a similar situation, they can kind of look up to you and see you as a role model. The fact that you've, you know, at one point were an English language learner and now you are serving English language learners.
Right.
I have to kind of pick that out, and can you talk a little bit about that and what impact that has on kiddos?
I mean, just knowing, just looking at them as they come in through the building and say, "Hey, I know how you're feeling. I know how," there's a combination of feelings. Yes, you see them shaking, you see them like deer in headlight because it's a new school, a new culture, but at the same time, inside them, there's excitement. You coming into a new country. I mean, it's just a new opportunity, and that excitement sometimes you don't see it because we're so scared because we don't know, it's like an unknown future.
Mhm.
And so it's exciting to see them and say, you got this, you can do this, we're going to help you, you're going to go to so and so's classroom and I'm going to go with you, or you have another ESL going with you. Just giving them that hope. I think that hope is already in them, but just
Mhm.
reinforcing that hope that they can and will make it. And hey, even if you drop out, I did. I think there
Mm.
are opportunities. This country is so full of opportunities that even if my student says, Ms. Francis, I'm not coming to school anymore, I'm going to drop out, there are resources. Hey, I can send you to RCC. There's an academy school, there's a virtual school, there's so many opportunities. As long as the opportunities are laid out, it's up to the student to decide and make something out of themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you being a type of teacher though that your kiddos can call on, because I'm sure that's not an easy phase of life, right? Where you're dropping out of high school, which can be sometimes our most consistent thing in our lives is school, right? And so
Right, right.
to make that decision for whatever reason, but to
Yeah,
still be able to reach out to that trusted adult to say, I'm scared,
yeah,
I'm not sure what to do, that's
yeah.
impactful in and of itself, you know?
And just for them to know that making that decision, it's their identities, their decision to say, I'll go this road or the other road. And just for them to feel free to say, I know whatever I decide to do, I know Miss Francis is going to have an answer for me. If I keep going this way, this is what's going to happen. If I go this way, this is what's going to happen. And for some of my students, that's not a choice. Like they have to drop out because they have
Mhm,
to start working. They age out, and 3-4 years is not enough.
mhm,
But as long as they know that when they were in this classroom and while they were sitting in that seat, somebody cared for them, somebody paid attention, somebody make them read, somebody make them do an assignment, just show them that you cared. I think that stays in your heart and it helps you through life, whatever comes your
yeah.
way.
I love that. I love that. I feel like we've touched on this next question quite a bit, so we can just continue to chat about it. But why does representation matter? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, for that same reason that you don't see a lot, just like we as teachers, we don't see a lot of affirmation and validation. I think our minority students do not receive enough affirmation and validation. They're sitting in the back of the room. Even though we're becoming the majority, we're still treated as the minority. Our languages are not validated. We're not our assets are not highlighted. And I think having someone who knows about those assets versus the deficits, that's really validation. And that's why that representation matters, because you walk their shoes. And I have teachers who, I have colleagues who they don't have the same background, they have not walked their shoes, but they have a huge heart and an empathy for those conditions that the student is living. That in itself is representation, because they are acknowledging who they are and their identity.
Yeah, the person I interviewed yesterday was talking about bringing her tortoise to class, and that was the only thing that got one of her
That
kiddos who was
income.
new to the country to open up, right?
That's
And
awesome.
so
Yes.
sometimes it's not our ethnicity or our language, right? It's also just like, oh, you love tortoises? I have one at home, you know? So that's
Exactly.
representation right there. And if that means that's gonna
Connection.
help our yes, build a connection so our kids will come out of their shells and, you know,
Exactly. Look at
I
that,
love
a
that.
turtle.
I know.
Who
I
knew?
know. I know. I know. Well, the LEC is starting to work more to create the conditions necessary for Latino student
Mm,
advancement. Our graduation rate on a national level, we're struggling. Our literacy
right.
rates, even our math rates, we're struggling
Mm.
as a demographic. One of the big parts of that work is to continue to support teachers like you because we know that representation matters. But what are your thoughts about how we can build the right conditions for Latino student advancement?
I think to find out what the right condition is know your students' stories and backgrounds. So, what is the right condition? Like the right condition for you, Susan, and mine is going to be totally different. So, you can't just do a cookie cutter right condition because everyone comes to us with whole different walks of life. For example, I have newcomers who speak and write and read in Spanish better than I can. So I cannot create a condition based on my experience because they are way ahead of my proficiency in academic and my home language. And so the right condition will be getting to know the student.
Mm,
How do they interact with others? What do they think about themselves? Yeah, I'm gonna give you an example. Like I have a student today, I told everyone out of the 18 students, only 5 place their magazine inside the notebook. That's an expectation that I have. When you leave my classroom, you're going to place your magazine inside the notebook. Well, this time only 5 did it. So the
mm,
next day I was like, so and so and so, get a reward because your magazine is in the notebook. Aver stood up. He goes, excuse me, I put my magazine in my notebook. I said, no, you didn't. I mean, I was just fighting. And then he opened the notebook. The magazine was in there. So in front
mm,
of everyone, I had to apologize. And I
mm,
I praised him for standing his ground and
mm,
defending that he knew what was right for him. That's the same, that's the right of condition. Like the conditions that we're creating is not based on our knowledge, it's not based on what we think, it's based on who they are. Like get to know them, see where they are, and what conditions can you create for those students. I mean, I have students who are barely learning how to hold a pencil and copy a word.
mhm,
I have students who are writing essays. And so those conditions are going to be different,
mhm,
still a high expectation, but the scaffolds to make it there are different. So, what are the right conditions? To me, find out who the student is to create
mhm.
that condition for that student.
Well, I love that answer, and I'm inspired by you being willing to be open-minded and being willing to learn and not I think historically teaching and education has been that the teachers are the expert and we have a lot of information to give you as a student, but for you to be willing to say, "I have a lot to learn from you too," so having that
Yeah,
mindset,
yes.
I think is like you said, the right conditions. Is having the mindset that you are bringing something to
Yeah.
the table too.
Right. Like I would have loved when I was 15 years old, when I was sitting in the economics class learning supply and demand, I would have loved to have raised my hand and say, can I talk to you about supply and demand in real life? Like I know what it is to sit at a market and sell oranges. I can share that, but I didn't.
Mm,
I didn't have a relationship with the teacher. The teacher didn't know anything about me. And so the conditions that the teacher was creating were based on his content, were based on his knowledge, but not based on what I was able to bring
mm,
to the building. And so the same thing with my students. I need to make sure that I I verbally say, you are amazing, you are better than me, because I've never heard those words. I need
yeah.
to hear like, hey, I can do critical thinking
Mhm.
without being having to speak the English language yet.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Well, obviously, you love the work that you do. That just shines off of who you are, and I very much appreciate that. But on the hard days and when things get difficult, what keeps you going?
Oh my gosh. So this is my 20th year in education, and I promise you,
Congratulations.
thank you. Um, I get in my car and I get into the habit on before I even turn the car on, I stop and think, what did I do today that is going
Mm,
to make me come tomorrow? Like, what was something I said, what's something I did, what was something that a student did that is going to say, I need to come back tomorrow.
mm,
Like today, okay, I'm before I start my car. What did I do today? Oh, yes, I was able to teach Kelly how to log in Power School so she can get her grades and look at her grades. That's something that, yes, I did something good. I'm going to come back tomorrow and do something else. I think that's something we have to do. If we don't
mm,
hold on to the little growth, if we don't hold on to the little details that are keeping us in education, we're going to burn out.
mm.
And we have to hold on to those ahas that we hear in the classroom, or we have to hold on to that resilience with that kid that is getting lost in the building, but he's still here tomorrow.
Mhm.
That's resilience. So seeing that keeps me want to come back tomorrow and keep on doing this again until, I don't know, I'm 80 maybe.
I love that. I love that because no matter what, that's a privilege of being a teacher is that no matter what, you're gonna be able to find one thing at least
Yes.
every single
Yes.
day. I love that advice.
Hey,
Emily,
if you don't really, you have to make sure when you come back tomorrow, try to do at least one little thing that yeah,
yeah,
can help you sleep tonight.
yes, seriously. Emily, thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations again. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, grateful for, seriously, I want to thank the organization for coming along and getting together this group of educators who are giving their heart and soul to impact students. And whether we get it or not, I think just being recognized and acknowledged that we're doing a good job help us continue doing
Mhm.
even a better job.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Emily. We do this work
Thank you.
for and because of teachers like you. Stick around. We'll continue to chat. Everyone, Emily Francis, congratulations again. And we'll talk very soon. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.